Adrenaline Radio. I'm Fred Blanchard, your host of Adrenaline Motorsports. And today we have an in-studio guest, Javier Vasquez. Something that we saw there at the Hot Rod Reunion, which was kind of in a pit area. And you mentioned the gentleman, Claude's last name was what now?
Lavoid, Claude Lavoid.
Lavoid, and he had in his pit area, sitting there by his race car, a 392 Chrysler aluminum block, which is quite astounding because we thought that product would have gone by the way of the dodo bird, but apparently it's being resurrected, and these guys have felt confident enough, with the help of Gene Adams, of course, from the performance industry, to redevelop this thing and enter it into the performance side of the business. Now, I don't know if that's the world's best kept secret, or it shouldn't have been said anything about it, but he had it there, we saw it, and I'm talking about it. So whatever it is, it's been exposed. So we're there. And other things that we got to see at the Hot Rod Reunion, which we didn't really dwell on at this moment, was a display in the pit area also of the Arius products. There was a pit area there that had a altered roadster with none other than a Hemi LS Chevrolet small block supercharged, which I don't know if any of those are out there today, but it was certainly there on display, and that was one of the things we saw, plus two other Arius products. One with a normally aspirated LS engine with 3 carburetors on it, which to me was the old school look and pretty cool in itself. And of course none other than the Arius crate engine, which was the big block Chevy with dual quads on it for street purposes. But there again, he took a race engine project and turned it into a street engine, and that was what was being presented there. And the beauty of that whole program, not only was that on display, that he had none other than not only Nick Arias, but Ed Eskandarian in that area signing autographs and signing pictures. And also, you had Joe Mondello in the announcing stand there at the strip, and I was surprised that they let Joe talk so much, but he was there tooting his horn about his school there in Tennessee, and the cars that he used to run, which was again Mondello and Matsubura, and I remember that car very well, and that was back in the day, and he ran a Chevrolet against all those Chryslers, and he did exceptionally well, so he was there on site. A couple of other vehicles that were there that were outstanding was the representation of the Green Monster Allison dragster. And to me, for the man to spend that kind of time and represent this product, and to have it out there for people to see how it was back in the days, early days of drag racing, when innovation was at its highest. And I saw this Green Monster for the first time in many years, only in pictures in the past. And there were several out here on the West Coast that emulated that. You had a 34 sedan chopped, and it was called Big Al, and it ran at Lions Drag Strip. And then you had a couple of others out there that was Allison engines. But this was presented and redetailed, redone, represented, and he actually ran the car, and that was the thing that I was really impressed with. He ran it down the strip, parachutes and all, and that was in the day. I mean, you had innovators of the day, and that was one of the beauties of the Hot Rod Reunion, is you got to see a lot of the old, early dragsters that ran but no longer are raceable, but yet they're involved with the Cackle Fest. And I saw a car there in the pit area owned by Don Prieto, which was a replica of Hustler 5, which Don Prieto created with the blessings of Mrs. Cannon, Frank Cannon's wife, and also Art Chrisman. That was quite a dedication to the two of them. It was quite a thing to see. And then, of course, there were many other cars. The guys out of the north, I think that they had cars from northern state of Washington up there, and several cars were down here. And you had, I don't know if Jerry Ruth's car was down here, but you had Wayne King, I think, was down in the area, and they had Herm Peterson, I think he was from up that way down here. I think they were showing some of that stuff that they had, and but these are the names of old. I mean, these are the guys that used to be there, out there doing it, and that was a big thing. I mean, that was this is what the Hot Rod Reunion is all about, and they had acknowledged a lot of the honorees Friday night, which unfortunately I wasn't able to attend, but you had a lot of honorees there, the guys that were all part of the early beginnings of hot rodding, and they're being acknowledged, which I thought was a real cool deal. And that's the way it should be. I mean, this is history of the sport, and this is how it started in Southern California, and it evolved from the dry lakes racing from the 30s, and now it's evolved into the drag race scene. One of the other things that it struck me was the crowds at this event. I mentioned early on in previous broadcasts that it was going to be a big event, and if somebody had the time to go to this event, and from what I could tell, when I drove into this place, there was not another spot to park a car, a motor home, or anything for that matter. And when I pulled out of there going home, is that there were cars lined up for over a mile in both directions on that road. That means that they couldn't get in and park a car. There were that many people there. The stands were jammed, both sides of the fence. The pit area was just loaded. You could barely get back and forth. And Javier, I got to tell you, in all honesty, I want to thank you very much for your hospitality there at the facility. You were very kind, and you even fed me. I was really impressed with that. I got a real Javi burger out of the deal. Out of the thing.
You're very welcome.
And that was a real cool deal, and I got to meet Kathy Donovan and her husband, and then I also got to meet her husband Norm, and I got to meet Fred as well, and that was a real treat, and I was hoping that they would you'd be a giant magnet and draw a lot of these people, but like I told you before, you're the best kept secret on the planet. And
well, thank you.
And so we're going to keep that from happening. We're going to try and get you out there where people want to come and utilize your services. And I want to thank you very much for being on the program today, Javi, and thanks for coming and being patient with me and me picking your brain and picking on you a little bit. But thanks for coming, and I really appreciate you sharing the information about your place of business and what you do and who you do it for.